Good evening, everybody. I'm Mike Kendrick, and I'm the founder of Wild Shots Outreach.
And I'm Rifumo Mathebula, Program Director for Wild Shots Outreach. We are delighted to talking to you about Wild Shots Outreach. You're going to hear about how we use photography to engage young people from impoverished Black communities in wildlife and conservation. You're going to hear stories about Wild Shots Outreach and the journeys of some of our students and how we develop young African leaders in conservation. But first, a bit of background.
I'm going to start with a little bit of geography so that you can get an idea of the places where we live and where we work. Here's South Africa and Johannesburg, 3/4 of the way to the top right-hand corner. And then just a little bit further up to the top right is Hoedspruit, where I live, and Acornhoek in red near Rifumo's home, and the Black communities where we work. They're right next door to the Kruger National Park, South Africa's most famous big game reserve. But let's look at it another way. How far is it to the Kruger Park? Well, from the UK, where I came from 11, 12 years ago, to the Kruger Park from London Heathrow, it's a distance of approximately 7,000 kilometers. And flying takes about 20 hours if you fly from Heathrow to ORT, and then from ORT to Eastgate Airport in Hoedspruit. From Johannesburg, if you drive, it's about just over 400 kilometers and takes about 5 hours. From Hoedspruit, where I live now, it's about 70 kilometers to the Open Gate, and the drive takes around about an hour. So why does it take about 19 years for somebody like my friend Rifumo here to get into the park or into a nearby reserve? And that's only because of his relationship with Wild Shots Outreach program. Without Wild Shots Outreach, he never would have gone through the gates. We've had a little geography, so let's look at some history now. My history and a little bit about my background. I'm an education specialist. I was a teacher in underprivileged areas in the UK, and that was for about 26 years until 2010. I taught biology, I taught photography, and I was an assistant head teacher. I also led expeditions of these kids to Africa. In 2011, my wife Harriet and I, we emigrated to South Africa just with 2 backpacks. I became principal of a visionary Second Chance Matric Centre in the ganglands just outside of Cape Town, and I was part of an NGO turning around failing schools. And I also wrote science textbooks for students who were learning in English as their second language. After moving to Hoedspruit in September 2015, I was dismayed and I was shocked to find that virtually none of the local school children had ever been into the Kruger Park, despite it being right next door. How are we going to save Africa's wildlife if none of the local people have ever seen any of these animals? Also, we couldn't find anyone of colour to speak at the Wild Shots Conference, the International Wildlife Photography Conference that my wife Harriet founded. So Wild Shots Outreach was founded using photography to get young people in local communities interested in wildlife and interested in conservation issues, and to enable these young people to tell their stories. Reviewing the needs of the local communities, I put together my 3 passions: education, photography, and conservation.
I'm 25 years old. I work with Wild Shots Outreach as a program director, and I also work with Conservation South Africa as a Yes for Youth media team supervisor. And I also work with Canon as a camera trainer. The Wild Shots Outreach program consists of 5 photograph workshops with senior high school students or groups of young unemployed. The program is aligned with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Every course includes a game drive when our students put their new photograph skills into practice. We have used Mike's experience in education to make the course active, engaging, and motivating. We have used Mike's knowledge to make the course relevant for young people from local communities. Our total number of programs run now at 120. Our course delivered at 1,012 students or graduates. Every group does a game drive. Every student receives a certificate, and every student receives prints of their beautiful photos.
I just love the smiles in this picture. That's Rifumo on the right in his Wild Shots t-shirt. It's just so exciting to take these amazing young people on their first game drive. And I think this was the very first game drive that you supervised, Rifumo.
Yes, that's correct, Mr. Mike. And I was really excited to take my knowledge and skills to pass that to other young people like mine.
It was great for me to finally see you go off on a game drive without me and to hand over the baton, hand over the leadership to you. Through Wild Shots Outreach, we're aiming to address three main issues. First issue, a disconnect between young people and nature. The link between these communities and nature has become broken, with surnames like Ndlovu, which means elephant, Ngwenya, which means crocodile, and Mathebula. We can see how deep the connection used to be, but now access has been prevented by fences, by history of apartheid, by lack of money, and by lack of aspiration. This image really resonates with me because it's a young man trying to look through a fence, trying to look over a fence, which symbolizes for me the Black communities trying to look through the fence and trying to see what's going on in the Kruger Park, what's going on in the Greater Kruger Area. Issue 2, unemployment. 65% of young people in this area are unemployed. And they're not aware, not all of them are aware of the employment opportunities offered by the wildlife tourism industry. This image was taken during the first very hard lockdown experienced in South Africa. I was coaching some of my top photographers like Rifumo online. I gave them a series of assignments, and the final assignment I gave them was my life in lockdown. And this was one of the images that came through. And it was, I don't know if it was unique, but it was certainly one of the few cases where young Black photographers were able to get their photographs published from within their communities at that time. And thanks to the Daily Maverick and thanks to the Sunday Times, we got those photos onto those platforms.
The third issue, we live near center of poaching. Some of poachers come from our communities. There's perhaps 8 to 10 years of wild rhino left. And as you can see in this photo here, to me, this photo is a very touching kind of a photo, because if you can relate with the situation that the rhino is going through, you can really see that we are living in a very bad kind of world. Such they don't have a heart to feel for these animals. Just imagine if it's you being cut your nose, or maybe a hand, or even a leg. How would you feel about that?
This is one of the photos that we talk about in the workshops. So we build in conversations around conservation and around wildlife tourism using these photos. Just a word of caution as we go on. We white people, we think that we can fix things, and that's not always true. At Wild Shots Outreach, we thought that we could fix it when we supported Queen Manyike, along with our partner organization, Eco Children, that she came from. We thought we could fix it by helping her to train as a guide. And here's an image that for me really tells a story, but Rifumo, you interpret this image differently from the way I do. Tell us about how you feel about this image.
So myself with this image, to me, is sort of a step forward for me, because as you can see, we have a lot of white people there, and we have only Queen there, a female Black person trained to be a guide. So to me, it's a step forward to get Black people in conservation.
So for me, it shows that the ratio is all wrong. You know, we live in a country here where we've got 5% white people, 95% Black and colored. So for me, I find the image frustrating, but it's really interesting to talk to Rifumo because he's, I guess, more of a glass half full kind of guy than I am. Yeah. So there are huge hurdles to overcome. And yes, people say, well, there's a week every year when entry into the park, into the national parks is free. But you still need a car to go. You still need fuel to put in the car. And visiting the park needs to be aspirational for everybody. These are called national parks for a reason. They belong to the nation. Here's an image that I think has an aspirational feel. There's a sense of reaching higher here. It's from the second ever workshop I ran. And when I saw this image by Supermandla, I believed that I was really onto something special. And I believe because of images like this, that Wild Shots Outreach would work. Likewise, this is an image by Untokozo. It's from the first ever game drive I did with a government school back in February 2016. And it shows why I'm so inspired by working with these young people and the way they use photography. There is no way that a grey-haired white guy like me would have put the baboon so far over on the right and the cloud in the middle and the grass in the middle. I just think it's beautiful and it's so different. When we teach a group with Wild Shots Outreach, we've got three main aims. One, to learn about telling stories with our images. Two, to learn about wildlife, conservation and wildlife tourism. And three, to have fun. Photography should be fun.
When we started, we didn't realize how quickly the student will engage with the cameras. We didn't realize how motivated, how keen to share and learn these young people will be. How the camera will turn the game drive from a passive experience to an active engagement experience. And these young friends of ours, they understand it. We cover conservation topics, rhino, elephant, lion, pangolin. We cover the economics of poaching versus wildlife. We are careful not to preach. Instead, we provide evidence and let young friends to come to their conclusion.
Wild Shots Outreach has come a long way in a short time. At the end of 2017, we received a Kudu Award from South African National Parks for education and capacity building in local communities. This was fantastic to be recognized, but moreover to have our students' photographs and their work and their stories recognized with the Kudu Award, the equivalent of a conservation Oscar in South Africa.
And in 2020, Wild Shots Outreach received the Gold Award for Community Partnership from the Global Good Award in London. It meant so much to us and the Wild Shots Outreach team. This was 2016 when I first met with Mike. Here I'm next to Mike on the right of the back row. This is when I had my first photograph experience. And this is when and where I realized that this is something that I want to do. This is me in uniform at my school on Wild Shots Outreach workshop in 2016. This huge smile was brought by when Mike told us that we are going on a game drive. And to be honest to you, we didn't have any clue what is that. And we had no clue what is that. We were going to, but actually what made us to be so excited to have that huge smile on our faces is because Mike told us they were going to see the wildlife. We're going to see animals.
You live so close to those animals, and yet you'd never ever, none of you had ever seen them before.
Yes.
Because of the expense, because of the situation, because of, well, many things.
Definitely. This is our group. I'm coaching this is our group I'm coaching in the front row, second from the left. Let me say this to you. This was our first game drive while living a few kilometers away from the wildlife protected areas. This was our first time engagement with wildlife. This was the first time we saw the real animal instead of seeing them on papers and TV only. This was my first wildlife photograph that I took. This is what made me feel very proud and joyful in my heart. Now I work with Wild Shots Outreach delivering the program. This was my first workshop that I led with a group of unemployed youth from local communities. With the workshop, we teach conservation through photograph. We take the student to their first time ever game drive in life. We give them certificates of completion. We also give them 2 printed A4 wildlife pictures that they took on the game drive and 1 portrait of themselves. As a program director in Wild Source Outreach, I have responsibility to organize photo assignments to our graduates. We also have a group of media team that take on photo assignments. More and more NGOs and other organizations are starting to use our photographers from local communities.
Okay, so Rifumo, can you tell us about this photographic assignment that you did for Elephants Alive, one of our partner NGOs here in Hoedspruit? Tell us a bit about this shot.
So every time when I see this picture or this photo, I feel proud and to understand how wildlife work and how other object or subject work. So to me, this was a very, very difficult, the most even now. I think I took this picture, I think it's 2 years ago.
Yeah. So what was the assignment? What did they ask you to do?
So the assignment was to get the wine bottle in the picture and to get the elephant behind also. And to get this only one picture being perfect like this, it took me the whole day to get this, because you can't tell the elephant stand there, I want to take a picture. The moment you get in the sighting, the elephant is gone, and you try to move around, it's gone completely. So to me, this was my perfect one.
I think it's fantastic. I don't think I could have got anywhere near this. It's just perfect, absolutely perfect. And as well as leading the media team, delivering the program, you've taken on even more responsibility this year.
Early this year in April, myself and Bright, who is a Wild Source Outreach graduate, we were invited to deliver Wild Source Outreach in Botswana. We had 3 workshops in 3 different villages. Botswana is different in many ways. There are few fences. The local people have negative feelings towards the wildlife. The cameras can help them think. The cameras can help them experience the wildlife like a tourist. The Wild Source Outreach students fall in love with the meerkats. It's the first time they have seen them, even though they live just a few kilometers away. And for these young people, their fear of elephants turned into respect. This quote from Anthony sums it up. Seeing the elephant up close was a memorable experience I will take to my grave. I'm now able to see the beauty in them. The game drive brought a sense of ownership, pride, and belonging. Following on from our success in South African, Wild Source Outreach was invited to Kenya early this year. Again, we're able to adapt our program to fit a different situation. We're able to help Kenyan school students experience their first game drive and start to understand rhino conservation in Kenya.
In addition to this, every year, we fly some of Wild Shots Outreach's top young photographers to the Wild Shots conference to learn from some of the best in the business. Here's the Wild Shots Outreach party with Brent Sturton, conference keynote speaker in 2018. And Rifumo, I think that's you on the right-hand side. Is that right?
Definitely, with a very beautiful smile. So that's me. And it was really, really great to meet the top photographers, and also to fly for the first time, to be in Cape Town for the first time, to me was amazing.
And the other photographers, top photographers besides Brent that you've met Jonathan and Angela Scott, am I right?
That's 100%.
And Bonnie de Bod, the South African nature wildlife journalist, you've met her.
Yes.
Yeah, amazing. We also put on exhibitions. So imagine that you're one of our young photographers whose images are in an exhibition in a prestigious gallery. These young people are so proud when their images are printed and exhibited. This is the Everard Reed Gallery in Johannesburg, one of the top galleries in South Africa. And the lady on the left-hand side, I think that's Strilly Oppenheimer. I think I'm right. But for us, even more important is taking the exhibitions of the students' photos into their home communities. We started off expecting small audiences. We thought perhaps the students and perhaps one family member would attend, but we've had over 650 people attending. Could this help to bring these communities closer to wildlife, closer to conservation and wildlife tourism, and closer to their natural heritage?
In 2022, we set up our bursary funds so that we can help develop the potential to some of our Wild Source Outreach top students. The funds are used to support their training studies, and Wild Source Outreach support 11 students in training or higher education. In addition to this, we have eight students who have helped secure employment in the wildlife tourism industry.
Let's look at the story of just one of these bursary students. Neville Ngamane is standing next to me here in this photo, and I believe Neville's watching this, so it'd be interesting to get his reaction later. He's here, he's part of our first ever media team, a group of graduates of Wild Shots Outreach, beginning to earn some income from photo assignments. This is back in 2019 when a local NGO, Rhino Revolution, invited our media team to cover a rhino dehorning operation. Many rhino in South Africa have their horns removed by vets to reduce the risk of poaching. Dehorning is a last-ditch attempt to buy time for these magnificent animals as their numbers plummet due to poaching for the illegal trade. It's unusual for young Black people from these communities to be invited on such an operation, so hats off to Rhino Revolution for having the foresight to do this. This image from the dehorning operation is called Desperate Measures. It's by Neville Ngamane, and Neville won the International Young Environmental Photographer of the Year award with this image. Neville's image just went viral. It appeared absolutely everywhere. Neville appeared everywhere, on South African TV, on the BBC TV, on CNN, and I think Neville's favorite was that Leonardo DiCaprio shared his photo on Facebook. For about a month, I was Neville's full-time press secretary and media manager. It was incredible. Neville was invited to speak in Hong Kong at the Elephant Foundation's Conservation Conference. They loved him so much, they demanded that he stay on an extra week, and he toured Hong Kong schools, talking about his image, about photography, and about conservation in South Africa. And I love this image of Neville outside a shop that sells ivory in Hong Kong. We always say that photos, the best photos tell a story. A young Black African conservation photographer with his image of a beautiful living elephant outside an ivory store. And then in October 2021, Neville was invited with me to Expo in Dubai to tell his story. The event was streamed across the world, and he was asked back to appear again on another panel. How fantastic to have a young Black African conservation photographer on these global platforms.
And Neville is not the only one. Reform Council, another Wild Source Outreach graduate, won a gallery competition at COP26. His image was published by The Guardian and by the Washington Post, amongst others. How fantastic to have young Black conservation photographers on these platforms. Do you remember Queen Manyike, our trained guide from the photo near the beginning? Wild Source Outreach, along with Eco Children, continue to support her guiding training. Well, Queen fought and qualified as a guide. She's now one of the top guides on Kapama Game Reserve. Queen was the star of a TV program podcast on CNN worldwide. The program was about wildlife photographers in South Africa. Queen's dream is to run her own wildlife education center for children from a community, and she's already inspiring more. Mukateki is one of our latest success stories. Mukateki was inspired by Queen and Queen's story. I was with Mukateki on the first ever game drive. Her dream was to see a lion. and luckily we found Maposa, a legendary male lion. And the reason for Mkatek's big smile in this image. World South Outreach sponsored Mkatek while she started to be a safari guide. She's now Fagasa qualified. Here is on the left, leading a guided bush walk. These are her words. Thank you so much for believing in me this much. It has been blessing and honor being part of World South Outreach family. Now I'll be able to be part of the change I've always wished to through education. I've always and forever believed that the planet belongs equal to all living organisms in it. Mother Nature gave me so much to give back. Sometimes we need to remind ourselves what World South Outreach is all about. What is at its core? It's about bringing young people like Nothando closer to their natural heritage through photograph, engaging them with conservation and wildlife tourism. Nothando was very quiet, but there was something about her image on the elephant. She came on the Advanced World South Outreach workshop with us and grew confidence. Like many of our young photographers, the camera seems to empower them and build self-esteem. Nothando is now one of our program assistants. Here's Nothando's Facebook post from World South Outreach course she arranged and recruited young people to attend. She's now running workshops and leading game drives. She's a leader in conservation in her own community.
And that was you, Rifumo, my friend, that's brought her forward. Yeah, that's encouraged her to become a leader. You've done so well there, my friend.
Thanks so much for that.
Let's remember that most of our students just do the Wild Shots Outreach Photography course. We believe that just that has a huge impact on them, their first ever game drive. We'll know more about this impact when Steph Klarman publishes her findings in her PhD. If these students choose not to take photography further, then that's okay. They've learned transferable skills on a camera. They've been on a game drive and seen some of the iconic wildlife, and we've been able to reconnect some of the people from their communities with their natural heritage.
We want to share a short video that takes you through a World South Outreach course from the workshops in a school or youth group, with the game drive and the beautiful photos. Please remember the images you see are taken by our students.
You're broken down and tired of living life on the merry-go-round, and you can't find a fighter, but I see it in you, so we gon' walk it out. Move mountains, we gon' walk it out and move mountains. And I'll rise like the day. I'll rise unafraid. I'll rise up, and I do it 1,000 times again. And I'll rise up, I like the waves. I'll rise up, in spite of the ache. I'll rise up, and I do it 1,000 times again. The silence isn't quiet, and it feels like it's getting hard to breathe. And I know you feel like dying, but I promise we'll take the world to its feet. Move mountains, bring it to its feet. Move mountains. And I'll rise up, I'll rise like the day. I'll rise for that we have each other. And we will rise, we will rise, we will rise. Oh, we'll rise. I'll rise up, rise like the day. I'll rise up in spite of the ache. I will rise 1,000 times again, and we'll rise up. I like the waves. We'll rise up in spite of the ache. We'll rise up, and we'll do it 1,000 times again.
In communities like mine, can images like these inspire us to work together in conservation? In communities like mine, can images like these help to engage my people with their natural heritage? I believe giving young people a camera gives us a voice. It gives us a voice and allows us to tell our story. Photograph boosts self-esteem and self-confidence. My World Outreach friends develop a pride in their photos, a pride in themselves and in what they can achieve, and a pride in our country's wildlife and wild places. Thank you so much for listening and for this opportunity.
Start with Rifumo, and I would like to say that there's a very old saying that you know, and we all know, a picture tells 1,000 words, but the picture can only tell the words if the person who took the picture understands the word. And what you mentioned and how important it is that the people from the local communities, the people that are from the area tell the stories, because who better to tell the stories than those who grew up in these areas? And you touched such a warming point. I don't want to go into to Mike, but it's such an important point that you made, that we should take the students into these places and show them the beauty. We saw smiles, and as an educator, the smiles made me. I'm almost crying. I'm on the verge of tears, but that was beautiful. So never stop telling your stories, and no matter how you tell your stories, you gave millions of examples of people doing PhD, people doing filming, people taking pictures and telling stories in ways that are so touching and so incredible that we are all, every single one of the 79 people that are in absolute awe. So thank you very, very much to you and to every single student that you showed tonight. Thank you. Chris?
So Mike,
thanks so much to you too for actually giving us this platform to share what we actually do. It's not all about what we actually do, but as well to inspire each other, to inspire everyone who is listening now to also do the same thing. You won't do the same thing as Wildshot does, but there's something that you can do in your community. There's something that you can do, like, social media, wherever you are. There's something that you can do that can benefit to save our natural heritage.
Thank you. Mike, the press secretary, you have taken your own skills and you've transferred that. You've taken your own passion, you've transferred that. And I think what is outstanding about this program, having traveled so many countries, seen so many programs, worked in those areas where you are working, A lot of things we do doesn't last. And what you are doing here is you are, on the one side, creating love for nature, but on the other side, also a skill and a transferable skill that these young people can take with them into life. And that is, I think, an outstanding project where this the dual side of it just makes it significant. We are also working with a lot of young people all over Africa, and this is a project that I would really encourage, and also encourage them to link with you to start learning and doing similar things. So from our side, really, to you, I think you also mentioned your wife earlier. She's involved, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes,
And
she is.
everybody really, really outstanding. Thank you so much. And then
Thank you for those really, really kind comments. You know, in photography is about sharing. It's not about competing for me, and teaching is about sharing. And when you start to share the ownership of these beautiful landscapes and these iconic animals, when a young person takes their photo of a rhino, it's their photo and it becomes their rhino. And when that conversation flips and it becomes our rhino or our elephant, that's so important. And that's what photography seems to be able to do, as well as lifting the aspirations and the self-confidence and the self-esteem of some of these young people. It just seems to give them a boost, this idea of photography and ownership and sharing. But thanks for such positive comments. Thank you.
Move to Johanna, who's going to take on the question and answer session that we're going to have. So Johan, quickly go.
Thank you very much. It is wonderful to see Lewin again this week. Twice in 1 week. Lewin, please go ahead and ask your question.
I don't want to give a question. I just want to give, if it's a round of applause, but recognition to Well Shots, where I work as a project manager for the Bush Babies Environmental Education Program, and my learners have gone through the Well Shots program. It's not just exposing the kids to conservation, but then we've had one of our learners together with the NGO Elephants Alive, when the kids were the journalists of the whole crew. They were coloring an elephant. So what really stood out for me, apart from just learning how to use a digital camera, it was to have one of our learners, Vutlari, yeah, it's his name. Vutlari, there was an author who published a book, and he selected a picture of Vutlari, which he learned the skill through this program. And you know, when he did the book launch, we had to come down to the center where everybody was there, and this learner of mine was giving autographs. So I think that, you know, for me is the cherry on top of my successes of the program. So Mike and Rifumo, thank you so much. I was just looking recently at the latest video from what's his name? Yeah, I forgot his name. From
I think it's Neville's. I think Neville's video from Kruger
Camp. Yes, and just how he captured the moment, to having the learners explain how the camping experience was. You know, I really can't wait to share that video with the kids. But, you know, at the end of the day, that link of humans and nature, it is very much evident in there. So Mike, Rifumo, everybody involved at Well Shots, thank you so much for all that you do. It leaves a very big print in these little kids' fragile hearts. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Luwayne. Thank you for all the work. Thank you for all the work that you're doing on that front. Thank you.
Thank you, Lewin. Good things are brewing in the Lowveld, with all these wonderful people together in the warmth of the Lowveld. David Lewis, please go ahead and comment or ask your question.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, Dave.
Yes, David.
Hi, Mike. First of all, fantastic presentation. I think you evoked the emotion in many, many people. Rifumo, your story is an excellent story, so thank you very much for that. My question is really, you've got us in the palm of our hands now, your hands, like, you know what I mean? What is it that this group can do as a call to action to try and help you? Or what can we share? What can we help with? You know, rather than just being an amazing presentation.
Yes, so I mean, there's a whole raft of things that you can do. I mean, if you know of corporates who are looking to invest corporate social responsibility funding, then you know funding can sometimes be a challenge. But any kind of support, if you come to Africa, come to South Africa and support our tourism industry. Come here now, because the last 2 years have been, you know, have been terrible. So please come, send the tourists back, send the tourists here. And if they're packing their suitcases, pack an old DSLR camera for one of our top photographers, because Rifumo here started off with an old secondhand camera. Neville started off with an old secondhand camera. In fact, a 50D. He took that image of the rhino being dehorned on a 50D. There are other individuals here, Warren, for example, and Karabo, whose stories are just as important, who we haven't had time to speak about. And again, those young people wouldn't have got where they are now without those secondhand cameras. So there's a whole raft of things. And if anybody does feel like making a donation, then the details are on our website, wildshotoutreach.org. But great to connect with you. I gather it's rather hot in the UK at the moment, Dave.
David, thank you very much, Maret. If you haven't done it already, I'm sure you've already done it, but could you please share again the link to the Wild Shots website and exactly where those donations can be made, so we can make it very easy for everybody to make their donations. Sifiso, it would be wonderful to hear from you. Please unmute. Sifiso, please go ahead.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you to Mike and the Rifumo and Wildlife Outreach Church for just cutting the segregation that our youth has with the natural wonders and our natural environments for like the society that I'm coming from, for us as Black people. So like I have a question for Rifumo, like as a Black person, growing up in the rural areas, like watching Animal Planet. So that was basically I did like each and every day whenever I was doing my primary grades. But during that process, I developed a passion for nature, for wildlife. I would always go out in the bushes, try to take pictures using my cell phone. But with the popular belief that in our society that wildlife and nature conservation or wildlife conservation is for white people only. Hence, I've been seeing white people on Animal Planet doing all of those things, doing all of those rhino dehorning, doing all of those conservation thing on Animal Planet. I've only seen white people only. So with that belief, I had the slight possibility of me losing my passion of nature, all because our community or our society believe that nature conservation or wildlife conservation is for white people only. So I just want to ask Rifumo, like, how did you manage like to overcome that belief ever since you started working with Mike, ever since you started taking pictures of wildlife, ever since you started working with Outreach Source?
Thank you so much, Siso, for the question. I think if maybe I get your question very well, and also with the scenario behind that, I think you had the same mind. You have the same mind like mine that I had before I met with Mike. So the thing that I can actually answer you with is actually meeting the right people, meeting the right person that can actually show you the reality, because there are people outside there that they can tell you that what you believe is true, but you need someone that can tell you to wash away that mindset that say that conservation is for white people and this and that is for white people. There's actually no side. It's for white people and also for Black people. So just need to connect yourself with the right people, and also to, just need to believe it.
Okay, thank you so much. And I was expecting your text. I don't know what happened. Mike, please do a follow-up on that, please.
Yes,
Will do.
yes, indeed. I remember exactly the connection. And the next time you're back in our area, please get in touch. Please get in touch with us. I would love to meet you. We're always interested to meet with people who have a passion and who can share that passion. But Sifiso, if I can just say something, I think it's also important sometimes for us to step aside when we're sharing, to step aside. So Luwayne was on earlier about a video that had been shot, and that had been shot by a young Black videographer. And so those young bush babies that she's working with, they've seen a young Black man shooting that video. And the time is right now for me to step to one side, because Rifumo and his team are so much better at delivering the Wild Shots program than I am. I'm not a role model for a young Black person, but Rifumo and his team are. And I can't speak Tsonga. They can speak Tsonga. So sometimes you have to recognize when it's right to step aside.
Exactly, I get your point. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sifiso. That was a very important question. Andy, please go ahead.
Thanks. Well, I'd like to talk a bit as one photographer to all the other photographers that are on this. First of all, what you're doing is so fantastic. I can't even express it. I did, Chris mentioned before that I had done a program in December 20 on Africa by teacher. Well, again, Africa is my teacher, seeing this kind of thing. So my question is, there's so many excellent photos that I saw on this. Really, really despite it, doesn't matter the equipment, it's the photographers, just fantastic. So here I'm in the US in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, we have like a photo photographers group, let's say, not a club, but like a networking group. So we get together monthly, but periodically, and share our work. Do you have anything like that happening with Wild Shots?
Only informally, in that we get together, our top photographers, we get together maybe four times a year. In fact, we've just had a meeting because it's been National Women's Day. We've just had a meeting of some of our top female photographers who've been working on a particular project, and they've produced the most beautiful product shoot, all arranged and organized by Rifumo here. Yes, we do try to get together, and we do talk about our own photographs, but maybe we should do that more often, my friend.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, I think it was not even the frequency, but even like in our group, we have some people that have been doing photography like myself for a long time. I don't do it as a job, but seriously. And then we have some that are newer. So you sort of have a cross section of people talking about what they're trying to do and all that kind of thing. I think it'd be really cool, frankly, to have some kind of Zoom session sometime where we could do cross international sharing or something like that. It would be very interesting, frankly.
We'd be very interested in that. Very interested.
Okay. It would be cool because, I mean, we have people doing all sorts of, photographer does all sorts of things. I do a lot of wildlife photography, but I do other kinds of things too, depending what one is interested and passionate about. And it's all great. So thank you very much.
Sure. Thank you for your comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Dr. Akbula, please go ahead and ask your question. Welcome all the way from Nigeria.
Thank you very much. You guys are great with your work. I'm into photography. I trained with Magnum Photos under Constantine Manos some time ago. And for you to be able to hand over this skill to youth is very, very encouraging. And it's something that I'm trying to do here in Nigeria. But we have a little setback. you see, you have these wonderful animals, you know, readily available to be viewed in South Africa. But here in Nigeria, we have the deep jungle, and getting to sight the animals can be very, very tasking. So how do you think wildlife photography can be encouraged in this climate? You know, a situation where you don't just get to see a forest elephant or the elusive lion.
Yeah, it's very tricky. It's going to be very tricky, but maybe you know, I got part of the idea for Wild Shots Outreach came from somebody in Cape Town who was teaching young people to take street photography. That's really, really interesting. It doesn't help from a conservation point of view. I haven't traveled in Nigeria, but I wonder whether you would be able to do landscape stuff, maybe do some pollution or some environmental reportage. If you could let me have your details in the chat after, because I know there might be people, there's quite a big photography market, and obviously the camera companies are interested in countries where there's a big photography market to support this kind of thing. So just drop me your email address and let's see if we can take this a little bit further.
I'll do that.
That's great.
Cool.
Dr. Mathebula, thank you very much. What we could also perhaps do is to link you with Prof. Enyang in Nigeria, and perhaps do some documentary work on the photography documentary work on the bushmeat trade there, where he's very actively involved in. So let's see how we can link you up with people. Timothy's question, I see he wrote a question in the chat. So Timothy, I'm going to read it and try to interpret it, and please correct me if I'm incorrect. I think your first question perhaps refers to the security in terms of the content. How do you secure the right of your contents, especially for the youth who have not started earning from the pictures? And then secondly, you would like to know about participation in citizen science. If Rifumo, if you are currently involved with citizen science at all. If you could please answer those two questions for us.
Maybe I can talk about the rights. So the simplest way to do it, and the best way that we've found, is to copyright the images to Wild Shots Outreach. And that puts a responsibility on me when an image is used for commercial purposes. That puts a responsibility on me to share that money, to get that money to the student that's taken the photo. But we've been able to do that so far. So for example, we spoke about Rivoni's image that went to COP26. So we had world leaders walking past that image, which was just fantastic. And I think he won £500 prize. I don't know if Rivon is there, but I think Rifumo will back me up when I say that every penny of that £500 was passed directly on to Rivoni. And the same thing when the students go out, when our media team goes out on a shoot. We've got 2 young photographers out on a shoot with visitors here in just outside Hoedspruit from the University of Michigan. At the moment, they're doing a 2-day shoot, and that's booked through me, and 100% of the fee that we charge goes to those two photographers. That's the way that we work it. I've forgotten what the second part of the question was now.
Can I please get the second question, please?
So the second part of the question relates to citizen science. Are you linking your project to citizen science, such as iNaturalist and so on?
No, not at all.
No, but we'd be interested.
Yeah.
We'd be interested. That's not something that we've explored directly as under that label, citizen science, but we do work with Elephants Alive, Rhino Revolution, Eco Children, and other NPOs here. So we are collaborating, but not on a sort of citizen science level yet.
Okay, thank you very much for that answer.
Yeah.
I just want to read a comment by Justine Maluleke. It's a privilege for me to have got an opportunity to got a wonderful and various training through Wild Shots. This NGO is more like a family to me. The remarkable work they are doing is very inspiring. I remember taking a picture of a leopard eating its kill. That was and still remember a memorable moment in my life. I will cherish this forever, since it was always my dream to see a beautiful and silent predator. So there's just another beautiful memory from Justine Maluleke.
Wow,
That's wonderful.
thank you.
I'm just scrolling through the chat to make sure we didn't miss any questions there at the moment. And right there, there's a comment from Dr. Llewellyn Taylor. All the shots are superb, and in particular those of the elephants. Tomorrow is World Elephant Day, and your shots are great for promoting elephant conservation, indeed.
Wonderful.
Yeah, it's very interesting working with young people and finding out. I think I would say that the elephant is probably the most popular of all the animals for the students that they want to see and that they want to photograph.
Yes, also wonderful that you're working with the partners such as Elephants Alive and so on. It's great to see how all the NGOs in Lowveld are working together. I really love that.
If I may, whilst Johannes is scrolling through the chat section, I know most of your work is you have students that work in the visual media, but is there any space for filmmaking? And I know you do stills photography mostly, but is there any space for filmmaking? I'm in the wildlife filmmaking business, and it's wonderful. You have the most incredible pictures, but I can't help but wonder about the stories behind the picture, what the elephant is doing and what the behavior is and stuff like that. Is there any space for that in your in the business? Well, not the business.
So you must check out a short film, an international award-winning short film called Beyond the Fence, which tells some of Rifumo's story. That's a great friend of ours, incredible young filmmaker called Tessa Barlin, who's now a Nat Geo explorer, and she's just done a 4-day video masterclass with some of our top students. I mean, I think shooting video is easy compared with shooting stills. But
it's true.
But I'm a stills photographer. I look at video footage and I say, well, there's no decent still image there. It's just so I'm a bit of a stills snob, but I'm also aware that the really cool area to go in for some of these media experts, young media experts that we're producing, like Neville and like Wisani and like Light, who I think may be watching, they're drawn to that video flame like moths. They just love it, and there's nothing wrong with that. And the other thing is that the photography with this Wild Shots outreach it's just a vehicle, it's just a channel through which these young people tell their stories. And the more I've done this project, I think the more we've realized that the camera is not the important thing. It's the photographer, it's the person on the journey that's the important thing. It's just a way of getting them access to nature and getting them access to those reserves and those amazing animals, those experiences, and a way of getting them helping them to tell their stories.
Yes. What I'm actually aiming at is when someone asked earlier on, how can we help? Is when you work for a filming company, whatever, you eventually end up with not all the equipment, but equipment that you don't actually not either use anymore because of the technical specification or something like that. Would you be interested in a donation of, not stills for photography stuff, but also, Light is shaking his head there brilliantly, but of filming equipment, a filming camera, like a decent filming camera that we've been filming wildlife with all of this time.
Definitely.
That
Absolutely. I wouldn't like to be in the middle of the scrum when
No, I'm just asking,
but the young women and the young men they're really good at sharing, and they're really good at you know, just a couple of weeks ago, Light, who's one of the students at AFTA, he did a workshop on shooting video in his own community. He came back on his holiday and did a presentation and a workshop in his own community. So he's already giving back. Wisani from AFTA was there, Neville was there, and they're all feeding back this stuff. So there's this huge ripple effect going on as well. It's not just the Wild Shots outreach courses, but it's these individuals back in their communities as well.
And all I want to say is, Miret, please, if you can, share my email address with Mike and Rifumo. If there are any filmography students, we don't do stalls all that often, but if you want to come and visit Homebrew Films, and I can give you a tour of what we do. We're based in Cape Town. And if you are in Cape Town and you would like to have a tour and see what we do, we every now and again we do an internship, and you can join the team. And I head the wildlife filming department, so it's right up my alley. So please share my contact details with Mike, and we can do something with the filmography, or anyone. I mean, even the stalls photography students. If you want to come and have a look at how we do it and how films are made, you are absolutely more than welcome at Homebrew Films.
Thank you so much for that, for sharing. And I think, yeah, I would love to have some of our graduates to come and experience that, because we have more that are actually interested in filming, ladies and both males. There are a lot of them that are actually interested in filming, and that will be something very, very lovely to come and get that internship.
Lovely, please. No, we'll make it happen. We'll make it happen.
Thank you.
Neville and Light, would you like to say anything in defense of the medium of film?
Neville has his glasses on. He's already on the red carpet in LA.
He'll be at your reception tomorrow morning.
Yeah, well, there's quite a lot that I want to say, but then I don't know, like, you know, actually, I just want to say this: filming and photography, to me, it's kind of a one-on-one thing. You can easily, if you know photography, it's easy for you to learn videography. It's actually kind of the same thing. When you learn whatever I'm learning right now, it feels like I'm doing the same thing which I did in Wild Shots. The only difference that now we do focusing on indoor stuff, and in wildlife you have to be ready. Focus, compose, shoot. You know, but yeah,
got it.
Yeah.
Focus, compose, shoot.
Yeah.
Focus, ready, and it takes a lot of time.
True.
Like,
yeah, all I can say about Wild Shot is that it's doing an amazing job to people like me. It's not easy for someone like me from a village to come to Joburg and study film, but Wild Shot gave me the opportunity. I'm exposed to different things, meeting new people, and then my passion is growing, more growing. Recently, I met Tessa, who's doing filmmaking, and she just inspired me to fall in love with filmmaking more. I also do stills, yes, but filmmaking is where my heart is. Yeah. Sorry?
You also do a photocopy of yourself.
Yeah, I've done a couple of videos where I replicate myself and do the acting, and yeah, that shows how interested I am, and I really have a passion for filmmaking. And now I'm doing my second year at AFTA alongside Wisani, who's doing his last year, and Neville also. So it's a really great privilege to have organizations like Wild Shots to sponsor us to do the filmmaking. And hopefully we'll take it back to the villages and inspire other people and to do the same thing. And yeah, we also, yes, we welcome your donation of equipment for definitely. It will be really nice. And yeah, thank you, Mike, and really appreciate what you're doing.
We are so proud of all of you. So proud of what you're doing. So proud of all of you.
Vusi, we would like to hear your voice. It looks like you would like to comment.
Very excited.
Hello, everybody. Yeah, I'm Vusi, and right now I'm in Vets Rural Campus. We've been shooting the whole day alongside Emily, and yeah, we've just knocked off. We've been shooting the whole day, and so I ran as quickly as I can to join this incredible presentation. What I would like to say is thank you to everybody who's here, to Wild Shorts, to the guys, to the family that you, Mike, built. Now there's hundreds of students who are like brothers and sisters, all because of you. And we found our passions. If I didn't get into photography, I don't know what I would be doing right now. Maybe I would be doing what I planned to do before, but I'm glad that I found what I love early through Wild Shots. And yeah, that's it. Thank you.
You're very welcome. We're very proud of you too.
Enjoy Vets Rural.
Thank you, everybody. We don't see any further questions at the moment. Last chances for questions. Yeah, sure. I'm going to bring Chris in.
Ladies and gentlemen, they took my chair.
Welcome back.
That's how it goes in this office. Mike, you know, it's all about one person also making a difference, two people making a difference. That's one thing we should not forget. It starts with the idea, it starts with one or two people who make it happen. And that's the power behind all this. And I must also say that we got to know about you through Stephanie Klaarman, I think. Is that right, Stephanie? You introduced the group to us. So that's another way, how share with each other and listen and learn. And also, I think we should really applaud each other for the good things being done. Conservation is very often so competitive because we compete for the same funding and we compete in the same areas. And just applauding and acknowledging what the others do is just so incredible. So we do want to acknowledge this incredible work you are doing. And there's a lot to learn about this. And I would also encourage a lot of students, and Johan and them in Share Screen Africa, to encourage students to watch this video. Just watch and learn. Watch and learn. So much you can just take from this. So to a whole team of people, well done. Thank you. We really appreciate. And maybe just the last thing also, Mike, Ron, who comes from this industry, just said to me, we might have a problem with the song, music, music on YouTube. We might have to agree with you to change the music, but we'll sort that out because those photos are so incredibly beautiful. We have to have it on. And maybe we get Ruan to sing a song while the photos are showing. Not sure, but we'll look at that and get it done as soon as we can.
Sure, sure.
To all of you, thank you. And behind the scene is also a lot of young people who are helping us on the technical side, making it happen. Ruan and Johan, also their way of doing it, making a difference. Thanks to them. So to everybody, thank you so much. We wish you a beautiful day and a beautiful afternoon and a beautiful evening. Was stunning. We thank you all.